Still watching Breakfast Extra, and in Anambra, voting has now been done, and the Governor Chukwu, has been announced winner, and that means he's been re-elected as the Governor of Anambra State. So we're going to go straight to the collation center where we have our correspondent Victor Mbadikwe, who will be having a conversation with the APGA chairman, talking about Kunle Sly. Victor, if you can hear us clearly, do you have the chairman there with you?
We had an interview earlier with him, and he's rushed out, of course, to meet with the governor in felicitation with this victory of APGA and the incumbent. But the truth is this: in every election, there will always be losers and there will always be winners. However, there will always be concerns raised as to the process, whether it was something that they would accept or not. And so you do not expect everybody to smile. So while some persons are happy, other people are sad. So the truth is, the incumbent Charles Soludo is back or remains governor of Anambra State. However, we still have persons who feel that that process was not outrightly smooth enough to accept the victory. Of course, I have the ADC representative here who is also going to be speaking to us, and he's saying that the process is faulty. That process should not have, brought in or returned APGA back as the state party of this beautiful state. Tell us exactly. I did hear that some of your concerns about vote buying, overvoting, and all of that. Are these enough? Are these issues enough to say that the winner should not have emerged, or the result should not have been what it is?
Let me say, as a matter of fact, if not for this massive vote buying, I know that my party would have won, because I know we have a very credible candidate, and we decided sure that we are not going to buy votes. Now, that is aside from other manipulations that can be gleaned from overvoting. Now tell me, why should such overvoting come to play, where you are using beavers to accredit before that person votes? How come about we are having overvoting? That tells you that there are so many things, fraudulent business that went on the ground. And what you saw that was reported here was only bets, an iceberg of what happened generally in the election. And furthermore, if, for instance, in my own polling unit, my own personal agent was chased away from that place by no less person than the local government chairman, or whatever you call them. Then it tells you that something is actually very serious.
Some persons could argue that the figures that the ADC, in terms of numbers, total votes, that your party, ADC, was able to come up with, is a far cry to what APGA was able to come up with. Again, you heard what the returning officer said, that Charles Soludo was able to, garner about 21% of votes in all the local government. Isn't this enough? I understand that, yes, there are infractions, but are these infractions enough for you to say that the incumbent should not return?
Let me tell you, people today will know that it is something that has already come to play. And we know that the Electoral Act is against vote buying. What I'm telling you is that people go to a place where you give them money. And if every party should act the way we did, let me tell you, we will have won this election. So what I'm saying is that no matter whatever one has garnered, you will find out that people will come. How much do you sell? How much? Unless you give him money or her, he or she will not vote for you. So that now tells you, it then gives you an insight into why we are saying that he got so much votes. It's not just simply because he's just that very wonderful, but because of that kind of vote buying and intimidations. That is the issue. So I believe that if things have gone the way it should, I have no doubt in my mind that we have won this election.
So what is the next plan for African Democratic Congress? And what's the next plan for your party? What's your next plan for your party before I let you go?
Well, let me just get back. I have my comment on that.
All right, so That's the State Coalition officer for the African Democratic Congress sharing his opinion, telling us how sad he is over the conduct of this election. He is saying that if the election had gone the way it should, his party could have won. But I did make him understand that the figures in terms of the numbers that the ADC was able to come up with is a far cry to that of what ABGA was able to come up with. But he insisted that, of course, the election itself was fraught with its own compromise. Again, the election observers who have been spending time, hours and days, carrying out their own assessment of this election, even up until the time the announcement was made that Charles Olude is returning as the governor of Anambra State. It's good to have you join us again. Good afternoon, sir. Oh, still in the morning? Okay, it's still morning. Oh, absolutely. It's good to have you join us live on News Central. As you've seen the entire process, you've been here from day one up until the very end. This is the climax. Charles Olude is back as governor of governor of Anambra State. So tell me, the process, was it worth it? Is it enough for Soludo to be back as the governor of the state? Or do you think if the infraction that you may have noticed, whether or not it is so, maybe he may not have been back? Are you satisfied with the process and so far?
My name is Ambassador Jim Okolo once again. So, owing to all I observed yesterday across the states, what I can say in clear conscience, or with clear conscience, is that this result, especially from the pre-election stage to the result declaration, I think things have been very, very credible. And I can say, as a global election and electoral observer, since I monitored Trump election, I tried to use it as a template to analyze any other election. I could say this was good, it was seamless, and I think it reflects the will of the people in its entirety. So thank you.
In terms of the conduct, in terms of what INEC was able to put together, in terms of their professionalism, in terms of security agencies, what they've done, are you satisfied with everything that you saw, or could there be improvements? Because of course there'll be more elections in the Anambra State, and especially as we prepare for the next general elections in 2027.
Okay, pretty much what I can say about INEC managing this electoral process is that we usually put some parameters in place, ensuring the electoral architecture, the electoral management and administration, and the voters' participation, when they all align and they are all in sync with the global best practice, and it's something to give kudos to, because I can say that all of them align with our templates for analyzing and assessing electoral processes. So right from the pre-election stage and to the results declaration, all I can say that things have been seamless and things were very smooth. And this is what I can say that INEC did well, especially bringing the security agencies to be at their best practice and as their best and at their best conduct. So I can say that they did well.
Okay, before I let you go, speaking of post-election activities that might take place, of course there's a winner and there are losers. What will be your advice, or what would you be telling the opposition parties now, or those who have lost? Would you advise? Maybe don't let me put words in your mouth. I'm pretty sure you have something to say, because at the end of the day, peace is priceless. Not everybody can win. Some persons have to lose. What would be your message, especially again to the people of Anambra State?
Well, Anambra in recent elections has been blessed with convivial environment to carry out and conduct peaceful elections. So what I can say that we have maintained this culture. My advice is to opposing candidate is that they should embrace peace and see how they can work with the new administration. Basically, that is my advice to them.
All right, thank you so much for your opinion and your assessment. I do wish, thank you so much, and have a very beautiful, beautiful day. So guys, I must also tell you that we did also notice that aside from ABGA, that's the national chairman, aside from ADC and a couple of other parties who probably didn't get so much votes, we didn't get to see the presence of the Labour Party, we didn't get to see the presence of the APC for whatever reason, but these things happen when it's time for results to be announced. But that's the situation. Charles Olodo will be back as governor of this state for the next 4 years, while others, maybe decide to collaborate with the governor or go back to the drawing board and see what they can do to unseat ABGA from power. But that's it here, guys.
So appreciate you for that update, Victor Mbadikwe there live at the Coalition Center in Awka, Anambra State, speaking to aggrieved members of the losing parties, and that's the ADC as well as the APC. Let's go to a short break, shall we? When we return, we go in depth and we start the show officially. Stay with us.
So watching Breakfast Xtra right here on News Central, and yes, it's time for us to, of course, to have conversations about the latest election that was just concluded in Anambra State. In case you don't know, the Governor Charles Soludo, has been re-elected. So right now, we're just going to have conversations as regards, the events that have, or things that happened around this particular election. And joining us to have a conversation right now is Anambra State Solution Marshal Titus Akpobi and Jake Epele. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Jake Epele is one of the directors at TAF Africa. Let me start with you, sir. You were there at some polling units across the state and to observe the elections, but most importantly, to make sure that inclusion happens at some polling units regarding persons with disabilities. I have to ask you, now that the elections have closed, collation have ended, and the results have been announced, and Governor Soludo has been returned, what are your notes for Joash Amopitan, the INEC chairman? Have INEC done excellently well?
Well, the two high points of this election, I can also talk about the low point. The two high point was logistical management, the deployment of electoral resources, which pretty much across board, I will give it about 60%, was great. The second and the most important is the peaceful atmosphere. The security situation in the state that I would judge one of the best in off-cycle election. And I think yesterday I was on one of another channel with the commissioner for commissioner of police in the state. And I congratulated him. I congratulated the entire security architecture. However, I pointed to him that, listen, I think I give it to Anambra people. They are peaceful people. They are people who really don't get themselves too much involved in volatility. And that's what had brought us to where we are. I think INEC have done way above average. They made up their mind that they were going to deliver on this election, and I think they did. There is no doubt that some of the low points were, one, voter turnout. However, let me emphasize as an independent observer and a political analyst that there was an increase in voter turnout compared to 2017, 2021. There's relatively about 20% this time compared to 10% that we had previously. So generally, I think those who won can celebrate with, they should celebrate, giving those who did not win the opportunity to also celebrate with them. I think the two frontrunners, and which, of course, the sitting governor eventually won, they should learn to work together. They are both Anambra people. I know there's always some iota of bitterness and all that, but they should learn to work together. And it's also very important, my advice would be, let us forget trying to use the court to upturn the will of the people. And I think the judiciary should be very, very careful. I'm not saying that anybody cannot go to court to plead his or her case. But however, let's, for the interests of Anambra people, I think they should all come together, work together. And I think Soludo should be open enough to embrace everyone. If I'm in his shoes, I will make effort to bring everybody together and let them know that, listen, we haven't lost. It's a win-win situation. But the greatest winner is, the greater winner is Anambra people. The greatest winner is democracy. So I think we should leave it at that. It wasn't a bad election at all. However, inclusion still remains a mere dream. We haven't been able to truly factor all shades of inclusion, despite the incredible effort that our organization made. We had some challenges with accessibility. We had some challenges with provision of the material. And I think we're going to really work with this INEC to see what the issues are and how we can find a lasting solution. There was something that gladdened me, the introduction of the sign language interpreters, specific sign language interpreters assigned to specific polling unit. Now, a lot of people have said, well, we didn't see the sign language interpreters. That's not correct. We deployed just about 25. You can imagine 25 trying to serve well over 5,000 polling units. It would be like not even a drop of water in a bucket, you know. But 25 is just minimal. And now what we did was to identify where there are persons with deaf community or deaf persons, where they will go and vote. We imagine, and we were right, that some of them may not have aids, because many of them will not be able to afford paying a sign language interpreter. So we deployed these sign language interpreters specific to specific polling units, and they did serve. The report we got, you know, in terms of deployment, INEC did well over 74%, which is a high mark. The problem here is administration of these resources.
All right. Let me come to you, Mr. Titus. Do you also share the same sentiments in terms of whether or not INEC has done well? What's your own assessment of INEC as the elections have been concluded?
For having me around. Honestly, I must thank the God Almighty for making it possible for that election to go on peacefully, as we all witnessed. Coming to your question, I must give it to INEC. They did wonderfully well. They deployed their staff very early. The voting commenced as expected in most of the polling units, most of the wards. the voting commenced. And we saw people queued in and, exercise their franchise, voting their candidate without being molested or harassed by anybody. And from the result, we saw this morning what was announced by the INEC chairman. It is a clear demonstration of people's will. Anambra people are the kind of people that appreciate good work. They know what they want, and they will always go for it. All the candidates were all brothers. Let me tell you, after today, you will see each and every one of them embracing each other, planning or discussing on how to forge ahead with the development of the state. Professor Charles Oludo, the governor of Anambra State, who has just been re-elected to serve for another 4 years, is a very seasoned economist and also a very wise man. There is no way he would like to go out of his way or claim that, okay, I've won, that everybody should go to wherever. He's somebody that will always call the people together in a round table and discuss with them, all the candidates, irrespective of their political party. He's a very wise and kind-hearted man, and also know what his people, he feels the pulse of his people. I must give it to INEC as asked. Also, the security agencies, they did well. The observers too. This is the most peaceful election we've all witnessed in Anambra State. And in terms of turnout, we are progressing. It's something that will keep on. It's showing that trust is coming back. Trust is coming back. People are now believing that their votes will count. Just like my colleague said, anybody can go to court, but the most important thing is for the court to do the right thing. But in this case, you may be surprised that none of the candidates may like to go to the court. The margin is so much. And people were free voting according to their will.
Let me come to you
That is
now. Let me come to you now, Mr. Jake Pele. There were claims of votes buying. As a matter of fact, the AAC candidate, Ms. Chioma, says she has evidence on the phone. And also even the governor, of course, Charles Oludo, also said that there are reports of votes buying. And this is something that we keep hearing every time we have elections in Nigeria. What can end this?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question. Listen, let's dig in and look at the cause. First of all, every one of them, without exception, from the governor-elect to most of them that contested, are guilty of this. You can't exonerate anybody. You cannot tell me that there was no vote buying by the party that won. You cannot tell me there was no vote buying by APC. And across board, they either vote buying, voter inducement, vote suppression happens across board. It has become a menace that is plaguing our democracy in this country. And what is the cause? The cause, some people trace it to poverty. I think also the electorate, the people in general, have a lot to do with this, because when we have failed the moral test of being offered money and you have the audacity to say no to it, I'm not a proponent that there's some people, and even I've heard some civil society say, well, take the money and vote your conscience. That is absolute nonsense. Forgive me to use the word. You cannot, when you accept money from somebody, you cannot tell me that you have conscience, talk less of voting your conscience. So that's the problem. And secondly, both the giver and the taker are guilty. I'm glad that EFCC announced that they arrested some people. That would be the end. let them tell me how many people that have been prosecuted, apart from poor people, the political heavyweights that carries this money. As a matter of fact, Anambra State brought a new dimension, and that dimension is a POS being used. You being given ticket, stamp on your hand, go and vote, come and show us and collect your money. It's destroying the fabric of our democracy. And the antidote is get the offender, prosecute the offender, jail the offender. We need to see that. And that brings me to the point of introduction of this electoral offender offense mechanism. It could be a commission. It can be a special court. Whatever we need to do to reprimand, punish, and put in jail, name and shame, especially these political heavyweights that have decided that they will ruin our democracy in this country. So nobody can be exonerated. I can tell you that as one who was in the field, who speaks objectively to the best of my knowledge, vote buying was across board. They both APGA, APC, every one of them cannot say that they are not involved in it. But let me also not conclude with a generalization. There may be one or two of them that did not partake in this, but it has become the norm for politicians to buy the votes of the electorate, because unfortunately it is these same politicians that impoverish the people, put them in abject poverty, pull them to this beggarly position where 2,000 matters to them, where 3,000 matters to them, 5,000. So that's the problem. Until we begin to deal with it to the root, all of us, all the discussion is like talking about the effect. We need to go to the cause. Politicians have become very desperate for power.
All right.
They have become very crooked in their desire to grab power.
As we're talking about politicians and we're looking at the polls, I would like to ask you, Mr. Titus, 422,000 plus votes have extended Mr. Charles Soludo, now giving him a second term to be governor of the state. But also the turnout as well in most polling units were extremely abysmal. Let's talk about that. Earlier yesterday in the morning when we were speaking, you were optimistic about, the residents of Anambra coming out to vote in numbers. But the exit polls tell a different story. Why are we seeing a low turnout with Anambra?
Just like I said while addressing the issue earlier asked, the process were improving, and people have started seeing that trust. Because just like I said, this issue of trust is also of democracy. Without people believing in the process, they may find it very difficult to key in. From the results so far, it's better than what we saw in the previous election. And we're progressing. Based on the PVC card collected, one or two reasons may be attributed to that. Some may register. Some polling units may be very far from where the person may vote. Some people find it very difficult to get to their villages. Those that traveled in yesterday morning were stopped because of the restriction. And from my own point of view, I believe that Anambra people have spoken that this is their choice. The next election will be more better and will keep on improving. On the issue of vote buying, my friend just spoke on, In my own area, in Israel, we didn't experience that. If the EFCC arrested anybody, I would be expecting them to prosecute those people, because it's one of the things that kills our democracy. But in my own area, we did not experience that. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was figured out sharing money or trying to buy vote for anybody. What we did within my area is to demonstrate our choice and the people's will. So I believe that by next, by any other, something that we will be improving from this time. Maybe by September, we'll be conducting the local government election. The turnout will improve. People have seen now that the INEC is living up to the expectation, that the police are also doing their best. Likewise, observer, every other person that contributed, the press, the media, they are doing very well to make sure that people believe in that process and that the process now works. Not after voting. They will say that your vote did not count. Our vote counts now. Our vote, our ballot paper, the vote is now our voice. The trust is coming back. I bet you we will experience a tremendous improvement as the day goes by.
I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from you, Mr. Epele, as regards voter turnout. You said it that, you know, comparing to 2021, the voter turnout this time around is quite impressive. But what do you think should be done to not just the situation in Anambra, but generally in elections in Nigeria? How can people be encouraged? Because there's this feeling of the fact that their votes do not count.
I don't like the word impressive. I think I never said that, because when you have just mere 20% of entire electorate voting a candidate that or participating in the election, that's not impressive at all. We still have the issue of voter turnout. We still have the issue of voter apathy. The fact that there was a 10% increase in comparison to what happened last year is not a good development. I think we should do better. The kind of momentum that the candidate showed, as a matter of fact, all the crowd that followed the candidate that won, if all that crowd have voted, we will be talking about 30–40%, you know, but they never did. My friend kept referring that the trust that had been the trust deficit is coming back. It's in trickles. We need to do more. So let's take this and look at what is likely to happen in 2027. You know, there's going to be a huge voter apathy across board. So INEC needs to invest in rebuilding her brand. INEC needs to invest in building the capacities of her own her people, that the staff of INEC. Before this current chairman took office, I am an insider, so I provide a lot of framework for INEC. The morals of the staff has been dampened. The previous administration did not focus on giving capacity to INEC staff. That is the truth. You know, INEC itself is a big elephant that needs to be unbundled. INEC is too big for what she's doing, doesn't have all the capacity, you know. So there's a need for the new INEC administration to introspectively look at INEC and reorganize, re-strategize. It does not make sense for you to continue every year. My organization, we're trying to reorganize, we're trying to rebrand. So there's a need for a total overhaul of INEC. You know, we keep talking about reforms. These reforms, sometimes we pay lip service to it, nothing happens. So there's a need for them to focus on voter education. Voter education. There's a need for them to probably embark on a campaign that says your vote will count. People generally believe that their vote will not count. And that's what we have seen that is playing out.
But would they trust the messenger? I mean, you can go on a statewide or nationwide campaign to ask people to register and always come out to vote. But the question was, will they trust the messenger? Can they trust INEC one more time? I think that'll be our final question for this segment. With this election now closed and, you know, whatever fallout will be, is this a true test? Has Amupitan passed the test? Are we ready for Osun State come next year? Let me start with you.
This is what I say all the time, and I've said it on several shows. Let's not put the undue pressure on the new INEC chairman that just resumed office.
Seems to have lost Mr. Educator.
I think, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir. Please continue.
Well, I'm so sorry,
All right, whilst we try to fix that, let me bring in Mr. Titus. Mr. Titus, please just continue there. Is it unnecessary burden on Amupitan? Should we give him more room to adjust into his new role? Or has he passed the test?
Well, from my own understanding, once you assume a duty, the job description of the world expects you to start doing everything possible to improve on that. The issue of vote apathy and all the issues surrounding it, we still, not only the INEC, even the state government, the civil society is also have a role to play. We need to start sensitizing our people on time, on the need to understand that their votes counts this time. The Anambra election, they just concluded the election and the result announced. The INEC did well. It's a true test of the fact that the INEC are waking up and also are ready to improve in whatever they are doing. The new INEC chairman, who has already assumed his duty as the national chairman of INEC, need to go back to drawing board, discuss with his officials, even the federal government. There need to be funds to educate the people on the need to participate in election. Just like my friend said, people believe that their votes does not count. And there's no point going to queue to vote for a candidate at the end of the day, you know that you will not win the election. But the narrative is changing now. Anambra State, the current governor, Professor Charles Oludo, who just won the election, win in all the local government, 21 over 21. And if we sustain that without anybody going to the court to truncate the process, I bet you it will also speak volume on what the INEC will achieve in Nigeria in every other election coming up from next year till the presidential election. So my own view is that you don't need to give him room to go to his office and relax and start thinking on what to do. But you need to go to work straight, move into action, and design a kind of blueprint on the way forward on how to cure this particular issue affecting the process. Because it's when people vote, when you have a massive turnout, then it shows, it demonstrates that everybody actually participated to vote that particular person. So the INEC chairman needs to do more.
All right.
We need to do more, yes.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having this conversation with us. And we hope that moving forward, we'll see some level of improvement when it comes to voting in our country. We're going to a quick break. When we return, Breakfast Extra continues. Welcome back. Still Breakfast Extra. Now, with the Anambra elections now concluded and results in, one thing is clear. Good elections start, long before polling day. They begin at the voter registration desk. Now, Nigeria has millions of unregistered adults and gaps in the database that affects both representation and governance. Today, we explore why registration is foundational for democracy and how organizations are working to make sure younger Nigerians are ready and counted.
So to make sure that they are indeed ready and counted, forgive me. Joining us will be Kunle Lawal. He is a member of the Electoral College. He joins us live now. Joining us subsequently will be Elvis Akpobi. But Mr. Lawal, good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, your shirt or your jersey almost caused a civil war in this building, but all the same, it's a Sunday, so I forgive you. Well, let's start with the numbers, shall we? What percentage of Nigerians eligible voters remain unregistered, and what are the implications for representation and fairness?
Okay, first and foremost, a good democracy is always immersed in inclusion. Nigeria has as of now, about a 97 million voter population, but an approximately 97 million voter population. Potential to have close to, averagely, give or take, 110 million voters. But that is approximation. We haven't done a census recently. What's most shocking in the entire system is the fact that Nigeria now has only 28% of that participation of 97 million, which is roughly about 26 point something million voters participating in the presidential election. When you come down to a gubernatorial election, you're having less than 20 million participation. When it comes to a local government election, then you have less than 6 million participation across Nigeria. This voter apathy holding back, I think, will not be restricted to only voter registration. I think we have diversed a bit because from 99 we've driven in conjunction with major CSOs and the orientation agency, all talking about voting. From 2023, the Electoral College Nigeria has decided to slide in a different direction. If you look at every basic or every complex, every working democracy, there's one key thing you'd understand. There are party members. Nigeria does not have 500,000 due-paying members in any political party in Nigeria, and that's bad. So we are now tending to, from 2023, the work of the Electoral College is assuring people are part of parties. When they're part of parties, they are invested in the election, and this helps even with the selection process, because the more people that participate in a party, then the more probable that the candidate who emerges from the primaries is more what the people want there as the person to represent them in elected office.
Now, we know registration, of course, is more than, ticking a box, right? But in your view, how does the act of registering, translate into a better governance?
I don't think it translates into better governance. The Electoral College of Nigeria puts political illiteracy at approximately 82% in Nigeria. And this is because even though people participate in elections, if you ask the average person, what does someone in the House of Rep, what is he to do? Their first conversation will be constituency projects or executive functions, which are totally unconstitutional, and even the constituency projects have no constitutional backing. But that's what we discuss. We don't talk about laws. We don't talk about oversight functions. It's so bad that the average Nigerian doesn't even understand how parties work. We do not understand the difference between indirect and direct primaries. We also do not understand quite a lot of things that go on within the system. So someone who doesn't know how a good manifesto looks, someone who doesn't understand the jurisdictions of office, of a particular person in office or a particular person, candidates looking for an office, how is he supposed to make the right choices? And that's why we make our choices based on tribe, religion, sometimes age, and now even gender.
And now gender. So let's talk about the bottlenecks, right? It's one thing to ask Nigerians to come out and register during the continuous voter registration exercise. But it's another when we look at the bottlenecks when it comes to voter registration. Infrastructure is one, right? But youth disengagement is another as well. And it's been hampered upon over and over again. And so let's talk about that youth disengagement and infrastructure for the far hard-to-reach regions. How can we close the gaps?
Well, for me, I'd like to take on first the youth disengagement. I think Nigeria generally are disengaged with the process of electing our leaders. The only thing we are concerned with is the product that emerges. We never care about the process. So our entire conversation is always, president's not doing this, the governor's not doing this is not going on, this is not done right. And those have been the problems which have been prevalent in all our conversations, which goes back to political illiteracy we are talking about. Because all we want to discuss is, the product and not the process. As regards hard to reach regions and issues with getting to these positions, I think that Nigeria should have embarked on a more serious campaign. I think people in the hinterland actually even participate more, from our statistics, participate more averagely than you will have somebody in, let's say, a complex area, a more educated area, like, let's say, Ikoyi. You have less people participating in an election in Ikoyi than you have in, let's say, Kaura Namuda, which is at the border. I think that's where the rail line stops in Zamfara. You have more people participating in elections there than you have people participating in Ikoyi, or you have people participating in Wuse 2 or Maitama, for instance. So I don't think it lands exactly at the exact issue. I think the fact that we don't have correct civic education in secondary schools, which helps build, people's thirst for this, and parties do not recruit at we don't have legacy parties in Nigeria, so we do not run a recruitment system which people start to participate in party activities even from secondary school upwards. I feel those are the problems we have with, even registration, apathy, and disengagement from politics.
All right, so we've been told that Elvis has joined the conversation. Elvis, thank you so much for joining. If you can hear me, I'd like you to, of course, just answer this question, which has to do with the fact that we know that you deal directly with young people. But tell us, what are the main reasons many youth say they haven't registered? Is it a case of poor information, distrust, cost of time, or apathy? Which is it?
Okay, from conversations I've had with a lot of young folks, a lot of young people in Nigeria don't have trust. They don't have trust in their electoral system. And for me, to make progress, you need to build trust. When there's no trust, people don't want to get involved in electoral activities. You see cases where you encourage the younger generation to, get involved in the electoral process. They tell you that with their vote counts. And another thing that is key again is, how have we fared all this while during the election? Is it what is on the book? What does the reality replicate what's on the book? These are the things that will make young people want to get involved. But like I always encourage them is, elections are only rigged when there's voter apathy and when people don't get involved in it. But we've seen cases where a lot of persons get involved and they find out that when the results came out, it's not what they anticipated, that's what they get. So I think President INEC chairman have a whole lot of role to play. Fine, we give people chances. So we're giving him we're giving him a chance to prove himself that there's a new INEC. I was privileged to, be an electoral observer in the last election that brought the present Liberia president. And 2 days before the election, I engaged some young persons that I saw young people who were so confident in their electoral umpire. And what happened in that election? At the time, there was a runoff with the incumbent president. Yeah, they tied and there was a runoff. I asked myself, after the president was declared the winner, that if this thing were to be in Nigeria, will this result come out? That's the question I asked myself. And to date, I'm not bold to even say the answers are. So for me, we've been advocating for young people to be in power. I think the next trajectory is to advocate on electoral reforms, on how the INEC chairman is being appointed and nominated, because there's a saying that goes to us that those that pays the piper, that takes the tone. And a lot of young people believe that it will always be like that, except the present INEC chairman will have to, prove us wrong.
Right. Elvis, as we're talking about, advocating for youth engagement just beyond registration, you've talked about the issue of, trust, which is very big, not just amongst the youth, but also the entirety of the Nigerian populace. But how then can we connect registration to actual civic participation, besides just leadership roles? Actual civic participation. Do you see youth being engaged when it comes to civic duties and responsibility and participation? Besides protest, because that's a completely different conversation entirely.
They teach people one thing over and over again, mostly when they are much younger. That thing becomes part of them. There were times back in school, we were taught civic education. I don't know if that's still taking place. So if there is, our academic policies need to be amended that to make people more patriotic, one, and to teach people on the importance and need to get involved in the processes that brings in their leader. And then for them to know that when they stay outside the processes, that's where bad leadership emerges. And when bad leadership is at the front burner, even their destiny, their future is being affected. So I think it's time, aside the mathematics and the English that we're so deliberate about, I would say it's compulsory, you must pass mathematics, compulsory. It's time there's a particular subject that makes it compulsory, that teaches people, that instills in citizens that we all need to get involved in the processes that best leadership. And getting involved means voters registration, for compulsory voters registration for every citizen, which should be even a prerequisite for someone to want to either access loans or whatever financial transactions. And if you do it, if you drive such a conversation, I think a lot of people will want to get involved in whatever activities like voter registration. But still, we'll continue campaigning because we will not mind our business. We will not be complacent because the future of Nigeria lies in our actions and inactions. We'll continue convincing people, mostly young people, that they need to register to vote. And it's only when they register to vote they can decide the outcomes of election. While we will beg the electoral umpire that they need to build trust among Nigerians.
Let me come back to you now, Mr. Lawal. Of course, we know that 2027 elections is just a few years from now, but tell us what concrete strategies should INEC, and civil society and even governments prioritize to get more people to enroll, especially, marginalized youth?
Well, for me, one of the steps we are taking at the Electoral College is, like I said, driving, people to join political parties so they can influence primaries. More people can influence primaries in Nigeria. I think the second one will be improving political literacy, which is something we already do. And we're expanding our reach generally. We're moving out into SUGs, we're breaking into other conversations. So we have the SUG literacy cohorts and etc. The Electoral College too is planning footnotes of, massive mass enlightenment campaigns, in using things, people would love to relate with, which is celebrities which they know and etc. As regards INEC, I think INEC, one of the key things INEC should be moving forward or looking forward to improving is guaranteeing automatic transmission of results. Electronic transmission of results, sorry. And I think this will be critical to the promises made, though it wasn't against the law, the promises made in 2023 that were botched by and moral commitment to citizens. At least if INEC takes it to that level, I think I'd love to see that. I love the fact that I'm beginning to see a lot of improvement with people living with disabilities voting, and I saw that in the just concluded Anambra election, which I thought was highly impressive. INEC too should be looking forward to campaign financing. I think the core issues with vote buying, with rigging of elections and etc. would be if we are able to enforce our laws on campaign financing and enforce laws on vote buying and etc., all those offenses around elections. I think if INEC can enforce that, then I think we don't even need a whole new set of laws. We just need those existing laws to already be in motion, because the laws seem static, but from campaign financing to, I think, Section 92 of the Electoral Act, which clearly states that state apparatus cannot be used in support of anyone in an election. I think that's 92.2 or 92.1 of the Electoral Act. And we've seen state apparatus, and state apparatus doesn't only refer to cars and state financing, it also refers to essays and etc., championing the cause of their principle in an election.
Right. You talked about, party level, right? But I do have to ask, when you're getting into party level, we've seen how the youth, those who are underprivileged or in a certain social strata are somewhat used for some certain activities, right? And so let's talk about that. At a party participation level, can the youth be engaged in a way that's beneficial to them and not for other very quickly, because I'm being told we don't have any time.
Yes. I think that can be very possible. I was the National Publicity Secretary of a political party at 34. Then
Can you tell those guys to stop? Good morning, all. Good morning, and happy Sunday to all of you. Are you happy? Well, I got any. I think you set up. So I just come out to say thank you to all of you and to the Anambra and to Nigerians. Well, this is a moment to say congratulations to the Anambra. You have spoken. 4 years ago, you spoke. You gave us your mandate. And then, of course, Anambra experimented the first time with beavers in that election. Extremely very low turnout. You elected us with 112,000 votes. In this one, you spoke loudly. This election and this victory is not just victory. It is history made. Big history. Because in the history of Anambra's politics, you look at the bit in terms of the percentage of registered voters that voted in this election, about 22%. Never before. You've broken the 20% glass ceiling, as it were. In terms of percentage of votes actually also made to any incumbent. This is the third time a governor has been re-elected in Anambra's history since the beginning of this republic, since 1999. In 2010, you re-elected a governor with about 31% of the votes cast. In 2017, you re-elected a governor with 56% of the votes cast. In this one, you were very emphatic, very, very emphatic, by re-electing a governor. Yours sincerely, and my deputy, Dr. Chinwe Ugele, with 73% of the votes cast. We're very humbled by this, a show of solidarity, show of support, and your very emphatic statement that you stand with us. We applied for this job. You employed us 4 years ago.
and was won in probably three and a half years ago. And all I can say to you, like we said throughout the campaign, is that you haven't said anything yet. Well, look at the results. We only lost out of 326 wards, electoral wards. We lost only 6. Only 6 wards lost. And out of 326, so probably about 321. 21 local governments over 21. So we used to say 21 over 21. This one will probably be talking in terms of the wards. About 97%, 98% of the wards that you cared. Very emphatic statement by the Anambra. Like I said before, we're very humbled. And like we said all through the campaign, and the Americans will say you ain't seen nothing yet. I want to say it again and again loudly, that with this trust, in partnership with all our stakeholders, in partnership with you, in the Anambra, in partnership with religious leaders, with our traditional and community leaders, with our traders, businessmen and women, in partnership with the petty traders, the hawkers, the wheelbarrow pushers, in partnership with the ordinary men and women of the Anambra, we, over the next 4 years, can say loudly that we ain't seen nothing yet. We ain't seen nothing. As I promised you, we're turning on to Gear 4, beginning from March. Probably we're now on Gear 2, heading to Gear 3, as it were, but we'll be getting into Gear 4 from March. To you, Anambra, once again, we will never thank you enough for renewing our employment for the next 4 years. And then again, a sense of gratitude. Gratitude to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria, President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, for being a very true Democrat. He's demonstrated very firmly, he said so severally, that all mean to guarantee free, fair, transparent election. And so we commend you and thank you, Mr. President, for being a very true Democrat and realizing we are in a true multi-party democracy. Let the votes count, and the people spoke loudly here in Anambra. To the Independent National Electoral Commission, I must very specifically thank you, and thank in particular the new INEC chairman, Professor Joash Ojo Amopitan, SAN. This is your very first outing. As the saying goes, you don't have a second chance to create a first impression. And I am very excited that your very first impression is a very emphatic one. INEC delivered, and I must say, put it on record, that since I've been participating actively in the electoral process here in Anambra, particularly since maybe 2017, when you started, experimenting with technology, every election here in Anambra has been getting better and better and better. And it is fair to say that this is the best that you have organized so far in Anambra. The by-election in August was super, and this is even a massive improvement even on that. And I therefore thank the new leadership, the leadership of INEC, all the national commissioners, the resident electoral commissioner, and all the recs that came for the election, the directors, and the other staff of INEC that actually came through. There were all manner of propaganda and rumors about some people having written results, and they were going to swap results, they were going to do this. Aside from one or two, cases of maybe some collation officers who made away with the result sheets, but were eventually, apprehended or gotten substitutes. I think the election was a resoundingly free, fair, transparent, and I'm sure very credible. So I appreciate INEC and say, may this be a foretaste of better things to happen, to continue to happen in our electoral system. And let me also particularly appreciate the ICT department of INEC, because by about midnight yesterday, they had uploaded more than 99% of the results from the polling units on the IREV, which is quite unprecedented. And I want to particularly single that out for commendation, because everybody was then downloading the results real time and compiling, so that by midnight we already knew where this result was headed. So INEC, kudos to you, and may Anambra continue to win. It's the foundation to our democratic system. And then finally, to my opponents, my brothers and sisters who contested this election, this is the Anambra way. I think 16 of us were on the ballot, and obviously one person would win. And we have had fun, the Anambra way. The way we fight here in Anambra, we fight as if there will be no tomorrow. But we'll still meet after the battle, after the fight, at the next wedding ceremony, and traditional weddings, funerals, and share bottles of drinks and so on and so forth, and crack jokes. The Anambra spirit is different. The Anambra spirit is what unites us. Let's, in brotherhood, embrace each other, and let's move forward. I extend my hand of fellowship, and that we're prepared to work with all of you for the greater good of the Anambra. That is the only thing that drives us. That's why I applied for the job, is to be able to ensure that together, working with all of you and within the Anambra, we will leave this earth better than we met it. That's what drives us every day, and I believe that's what drove each and every one of you to apply also to serve in the Anambra. And now that the people have spoken, let's get back to work. For me, I've already no minute lost, even during the campaign. Even last night, as the coalition was going on, I was even making calls. I spoke to the Commissioner for Budget last night, talking about the budget outlines that I want to start discussing from this night and so on, even tomorrow. I am back to office, work tomorrow, as usual. It's a 24/7 assignment, and we can't wait. The Anambra cannot wait, because the job to be done is still a lot. It's an assignment with a deadline, and may Anambra continue to win, may Nigeria continue to win, and God bless Anambra State, bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
The representative for the gubernatorial candidate for APGA there at his residence in Awka, Anambra State. Just he's back on the podium. Let's hear what he's saying.
Importance, actually, very decisive, because INEC couldn't deliver, even with the best of intentions, if the security agencies didn't come through. I must commend all the security forces, the Nigerian police, the army, the DSS, the civil defense, the Navy, and our own local security force, the Agoda Chamber. They all came through. Agoda Chamber on the sidelines, but making sure that the borders also fully secured. I think by being very impartial and ensuring that due process be done, they were able to thwart even the major efforts of some forces that wanted to cause mayhem. But even on this, I also recognize not with sadness, the sad news of some hoodlums that went to a community over Izukala, just on the outskirts, the border with Imo. And we understand they came from across the border, caused mayhem, and even killed one of our supporters and a councillor who had just voted and was heading home. They accosted him and shot him dead. That's a councillor, an Apga chieftain at the border there. Very unfortunate. May his soul rest in peace. And to the security forces, we say big kudos, because without you, it would have been difficult to have free, fair, transparent election. Thank you very much.
And as Governor Charles Chukwuma Soludo there, the APGA gubernatorial candidate for the Anambra State governorship election, just giving his speech after he's been announced as the winner and returned as the governor-elect for the state. You can see him there at his residence, in front of his residence, addressing pressmen at Aguata in Anambra State, his personal residence. Just giving speech, he thanked INEC for a job well done. Also did give a bit of praise, not just to the security agencies who are ground to provide security for the elections, but also to the local vigilante group, and that's the Aguna Chamber group. And also he talked about one of the members who had lost their lives at the borders of the residents. Chinwe Ugele, our correspondent, is on standby now to give us a bit of update. Chinwe, if you can hear me.
To the election results that has just announced his re-election as the governor of Anambra State, and he's said a lot of things. He talked about bringing his opponent on board and carrying on with him. Your Excellency, congratulations.
Thank you very much. This News Capital.
Yes, News Central TV.
News Central.
Yes, News Central TV. All right. Okay. No, I'm not interviewing him. It's okay. All right. So the governor is obviously excited. He has just finished addressing the media, and he talked about the things that he's going to continue doing even while in office. So everybody will be looking forward to March, when he will get inaugurated for his second term run. So that's it from this end. It's a happy mood. It's a happy situation. There are so many things that he said. He talked about the fact that the state, did more in terms of election, the number of votes that were garnered, the number of people that participated in the election this year. It moved from what it used to be 4 years ago to something better even this time around. So it's something that we can stay on and talk about more even as we go ahead to get reactions from the governor and his team here in Isofia, Aguata local government area. Okay, so I think the camera will just have to pan to the governor, and let's see what the governor is doing at the moment. Sorry. Get this mic. Hello? Hello? Yes, I can. Hello? I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes,
Okay, I want to get a selfie with Her Excellency.
And there you have it there. The governor has now accepted the re-election for announcement, giving there his acceptance speech, and also saying that his government moving forward, his second term will be a government that is of unity. Now, Chinwe is on standby to speak to the First Lady of Anambra State, the wife of the governor.
I'm happy, and solution continues. That's all I can tell you. We are in gear 4, and that's it. Solution continues. That's all I can say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was the wife of the governor who just said she was happy that the governor emerged. Okay, so we'll be talking to a couple of people here. Okay, so tell me, what does this win mean for you?
Well, let me start by saying a big congratulations to His Excellency, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, CFR. And back to your question, this win means a lot to Anambra, means a lot to the people of Anambra, and means a lot to us. Not just because we work with him, I'm the MD Bureau of Statistics, not just because we work with him, but because he has done a lot for Anambra. And like he said a few minutes ago, the work continues, solution continues, continue to provide solution for the people of Anambra. And we believe that the next 4 years will be better, bigger, and stronger than what has been achieved in the past 3.5 years.
What areas would you want him to concentrate more in the second lap of his administration?
Well, you know, it's a personal thing. Like I said, I work with him, and I've been part of, you know, even while he was the chairman of the Vision 2070, his transition team, manifesto team, and all that. And all the things he plans to do for Anambra State has been encapsulated in those documents. So areas concerning infrastructure, concerning health, education, you know, everything, social protection, you know, the whole thing. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so we'll still get more people to react to the situation on ground. Hello, morning. Okay, what's your name?
My name is Ugochukwu.
Ugochukwu who?
Rubinwa.
Okay, so tell me how you feel about the fact that the governor has been re-elected for his second term.
Everywhere, only thing I can say that God did his own. So the thing went well, and I'm so much in love where the thing went. It's fine. And Anambra is Apoga. So others, on open net, they are just doing their own thing. But all I have to say is that as they lose, may they come and join hands. May we build Anambra, because we need better word for Anambra. That's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the people would want those who contested with the governor, the opponents, to come join hands with the governor to help build Anambra State. And like one of them said, Anambra, they say, is APGA, because for them, the sentiment they share here is that it doesn't matter how good you are. For you to win the governorship election in Anambra, you have to be in the All Progressives Grand Alliance. That is the sentiment some of, in fact, majority of the people in the state share. And that's what's been playing out here. So we'll still go around the governor. He's been going around exchanging pleasantries with some of his supporters.
Chinwe Ugele there, our correspondent live from the governor's residence in Agota, local government area of Anambra State, just giving his acceptance speech after he's been announced winner and re-elected as the governor for Anambra State, extending his term now into a second administration. Let's go shopping, shall we? When we continue, when we come back, there's plenty on the other side. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. It's actually Hawana Central this morning. Good morning to you. Let's continue, shall we, as we're turning the spotlight on men's health. It's a conversation that doesn't happen nearly as often as it should, and so today we intend to do this. Across Nigeria, prostate cancer remains the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in men, yet awareness and early testing remain dangerously low. According to data from the Nigerian Cancer Registry, more than 13,000 new cases are recorded every year, and doctors say many of them are detected far too late for effective treatment. But beyond statistics lies a deeper issue: culture and silence. Many men don't talk about their health until it's too late, or it's many men after them, often out of fear, denial, or their perception that seeking help is a sign of weakness. Except when he's marrying 3 wives, but I digress.
Anyway, today we are asking, what will it take to change that mindset? How can families, workplaces, and the media help men prioritize their health before a crisis strikes? Now, join us to unpack this is Markfred Akachukwu, founder of GENTS Hangout, a platform dedicated to breaking stigma and promoting wellness amongst men. We'll explore symptoms men should never ignore. We'll also talk about the importance of early screening and how awareness campaigns can save lives, rather. Now, because, at the end of the day, good health isn't a woman's conversation. It's everyone's conversation. So
Absolutely.
let's get straight into it.
Markfred, good morning to you and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much that I'm here for the platform also. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, to begin, men would rather tell you that monogamy is a social construct as opposed to fighting for more testing when it comes to their prostate. And so when you look at the latest data, it shows that, prostate cancer incidence and mortality among men, especially they're part of the mortality rate among men, especially beyond 50 years of age. I gotta ask, why are we so concerned about monogamy as opposed to health when it comes to our men folk or male folk?
Thank you for that brilliant question. Yes, it's been a very crucial issue in our society because most men are being groomed to be tough. They are being groomed to also maybe see maybe going for checkup as a weakness or maybe see it as more like a fear. So how would I maybe go for a checkup and be tested? So we as an organization have been involved making sure that we break that stereotype in also engaging in advocacy campaigns to encourage more men to go check up, not just even at that maybe 45 or 50 years old, as far as maybe you are on the age of maybe 25, 30 years old, 35 years old. We encourage men to go for checkup, early checkup, because if we are able to detect these maybe symptoms as early and enough, we'll be able to prevent it, and it can also be very well curable. So yes.
Now tell us, what are some misconceptions? I know there are quite a lot, right? Or let's say cultural barriers that prevent men from going for screening and having early detection of prostate cancer, especially in Nigeria.
Thank you also for the question. We have had to deal with so many of them, and top on the list is this concept of our culture. Because we live in a terrain that we are very well maybe respected about our culture. Most men tend to also feel that it's beyond or it's against their culture to go for this maybe kind of checkup. And again, also our religious beliefs. Nigeria is maybe mostly made of men that are very religious. So we have this concept that, my faith is against this, or maybe I have this belief that, maybe sickness is not even in my body, so I'm far away from sickness. So I can't even have this. And that posed a very major concern because most of the times men are being seen, most men are being seen, are held like say on this disease. A recent World Health Organization late last year says out of every 8 men, 1 is with this disease. So if we are able to maybe break those stereotypes in our faith groups, in our cultural background, especially maybe those that are even staying like say Padurura and communities also, being able to make them aware that yes, even beyond the cultural maybe stereotypes and the faith beliefs, that we are able to also go for checkup and go for early screening. We normally maybe hammer on that, go for early screening, and then being able to also to dictate these symptoms, because ironically it doesn't really come or show up as most as maybe other diseases so actually maybe shows up. So when we are able to make sure that, okay, we are able to go for these checkups very early enough, we'll be able to detect the disease and also prevent it. Yes.
Right. Look, let's talk about the younger men, right? I'm very, I mean, because I feel like at a certain age we have lost hope in the older men. I mean, from, I won't say 30s, but 40s. But when you look at the younger men, you can still catch them young, as they say. How do you engage them, you know, in that bracket about, you know, when it comes to issues like this, in early testing, in health awareness, in opening up in emotional intelligence? How do they understand that this issue is not a later life problem or matter, that it starts now?
Thank you for that question also. So at GENTS Hangout, we have been on this campaign for over, this year will make us 4 years now that we have been actively on this campaign. And as you rightly said, we are focused more now on the younger men, adolescent males from the age of maybe 15 and to 35 years of age. We have engaged on so many outreaches, from going to secondary schools to going to higher institutions, just to make sure that there is a sensitization. We have also, as we make sure that we also regroup our community. Now we have a community of young people also, whereby, okay, they are able to even speak about those things and also interface with their peer groups also. So it has been able to open them up to make sure that, okay, they engage in these conversations. Also holding symposiums. We have held workshops, maybe seminars, talks also, just to make sure that we keep on doing the awareness on those maybe schools. Going from as of late last year, we engaged in the over secondary schools in southeast Nigeria, just to make sure that this particular campaign and awareness are made. Again, also we also leverage on the social media platforms now, because most of our young people are there. So we engage more on like maybe all those platforms that maybe they are in, TikTok, on Facebook, on Twitter also. We make sure that we engage them. We bring in very well-vested experts also to be there to like give more light on the matter. And so far, so we have been able to record a high level of engagement in terms of them also being aware of what is happening and also going for the screening as early as possible. Recently also, because of the new recent report that we are even getting, that now young men of 25, 22, 23, even the latest one, even of maybe 19-year-olds, are diagnosed of this disease. So we are no more even waiting for them to even reach maybe 35 years of age or reach maybe 40 years of age to be able to enforce it like on them. Now, our community GENTS Hangout, we normally do a bilateral engagement every year at the early of the year, and then at the end of the year also, to mandate all our community members to go for checkup, like a mandatory campaign. We say everybody should just go and do checkup, go and do screening, just go and open up, and then if you also watch out for maybe symptoms also. So assuming probably, and maybe they are also complaining of the symptoms that this disease also maybe come through. We make sure that we constantly also be on the look of that and encourage them to quickly go and see a doctor and go and do their routine medical checkups. So by this, we have been able to record a lot of positive responses, especially on our young ones and our young males also that are coming up. Thank you.
We talk about early detection, right? And this, of course, has to do with the screening as well. But tell me, what are we looking at when it comes to screening facilities and treatment, access in Nigeria right now? And what do you think has to change to ensure that, prostate cancer detection is more accessible?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I feel and I think based on our experiences that we have a lot of work to do on that regard. We have been able to have some few challenges on that because obviously we are not medical personnel, though we have some medical personnel in our community also, but the health sector in the country needs to do more work. We are not just even allowing just this work for the government alone. We are calling on partners. We are calling on firms that are also involved in this to actually do more, especially in our communities at the rural areas. We have already maybe written some policy letters and maybe statements to bring up mobile screening. And this mobile screening is not just a regular maybe going to the hospital and doing your maybe check-up, like maybe having these things that will come to the rural areas, to those communities that they are not able to even access basic health care, to give them maybe this test for free. And this test is not so cheap. So that's the more reason why it's a major challenge that the country is actually facing. And I believe when more people, more bodies, more platforms, more organizations, the federal government, the state government are, and then even local government also are involved in the conversations also, we'll be able to have more people get tested, get screened, and also get their health checked also. So yes, we have identified it as a major issue, and we have been able to, over time, engage in advocacy. And again, also, thank you for this platform also, because it is a way for us to stick all on bodies, maybe whether they are local, whether they are national bodies, whether they are regional bodies, to still come and be involved in this process, and with that also be able to have a lot more awareness and campaign productivity. Right.
Let's have a call to action, right? As we wrap up this discussion, as we are in the month of prostate cancer awareness, we saw the engagements all through the entirety of October, but the messaging is completely different for November. And this is not in any way to slight anyone who is in the cancer awareness sector or anyone who is in the health sector. I think this has more to do with culture and silence when it comes to Nigerian men. So what would then be your call to action for Nigerian men? How would you mobilize them, to get involved, get tested, and, open up, especially for this month?
Thank you so much for that question also. So yes, I want to really appeal to my brothers. I want to appeal to my fathers. I want to appeal to our uncles. Yes, our senior maybe citizens also. Please, we need to go for screening. We can't be called limit leaders. We can't live out our purpose if we die, because the only way that we can also be able to be men and be seen as the alphas in the society and engage in nation building and be able to also live for our family, to live for our partners, to live and take care of our parents at their age, is when we are alive. So if we are being affected by these maybe diseases that is very, very preventable, that we can even cure if detected early, and if we now maybe use the concept of maybe silence and not even being aware of it, we are doing ourselves, and then in a way also those people that maybe love us so much, they also maybe tend to also maybe lose us as early as possible. So I call on all the males that are listening to me now, whether you are young, whether you are old, whether you are at the middle as maybe the age, please take care of your health. Be very accountable. I know, yes, as men, our makeup are made up with that, maybe being taught, especially even growing up in this maybe side of the country, whereby every man in Nigeria is expected to just show up that maybe masculinity and just be an alpha and just be everywhere. But yet, in the midst of the hustle and chasing of the success, we need to also be responsible. We need to be accountable. We need to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a weakness. Vulnerability is not fear. Vulnerability is wisdom, is strength. You being able to take maybe responsibility of your well-being, because you being well also means that your family also will be well, means that the nation also will be well, means that community also will be well. So I appeal to all men, I appeal to my brothers, I appeal to every man out there. Please, let's take our awareness seriously, our health seriously, our wholeness seriously. If possible, have someone that you have to maybe speak to. If he's a colleague that you have to speak with, just be able to be open up, like be able to express yourself. Don't go and bottle in. Don't go and carry the what problem on your head. Just be, being able to make sure that, yes, I have like a safe space whereby I'm able to maybe check myself. I have my maybe doctor to go and also maybe report to if there are any form of maybe symptoms. And I make sure I eat right, because these days also men don't really eat right. We just eat maybe junks. So also maybe making sure that you do more of the vegetables, you do more of the fruits, you reduce your red meat intake, you do more of the exercise. It might not even, even though maybe you don't have the time to go to and maybe to the gym, and just make sure that you those 2 minutes, 3 minutes and 4 minutes, you also maybe use it to actually maybe track and reduce weight. Go for medical checkups, and by so doing also it will be able to sensitize those around us. Then not just for us. If you are hearing this, it can also maybe help and also be an advocate. Tell somebody to tell somebody. Let's keep maybe spreading the message of going for screening, making sure that we reduce these statistics of men being able to be contacting these, and by so doing, we'll be able to have a very healthy family, health society, and also a healthy nation. Thank you so much.
That's it, really, Markfred. You said it very nicely. Most importantly, as well, those who are holding spaces for the men, please make sure that you're holding space with, emotional intelligence. There's one thing to have men rely on you and be vulnerable. It's another thing to shame them for doing it, and shame on you for shaming them. Markfred, many thanks. We appreciate you for coming on and just speaking to us on an issue that really, really, really matters. Again, health matters. Early screening is important, and if you want to stay alive and continue to chase, have side chicks, and live up to your senator's legacy. Okay. Let it slide. Okay, bye. Markfred, many thanks. We appreciate you. Let's go to a short break, shall we? When we come back, we turn to the future. We said cars will run on water, but first electricity. After the break, stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Extra. Now, in this segment, we turn our attention to one of the most dynamic shifts looming across our region: mobility and transportation. Now, as West Africa grapples with urban congestion, climate pressures, and import dependency, a bold transition is gaining traction. The phasing out of petrol fuel vehicles. Countries and regional bodies are now discussing timelines, incentive schemes, and policy frameworks to replace internal combustion cars with cleaner alternatives. For Nigeria, this isn't just about greener air. It's about jobs, it's about infrastructure, it's about investment, and how millions of everyday commuters get around.
We've seen this as well happening at also the grassroots level. But anyway, joining us today to have an in-depth analysis on whether or not this is possible is Adedayo Odunlami. He is the CEO and co-founder of Zoom, a startup on the front line of mobility innovation. We'll ask how realistic is a petrol car phase out in Nigeria and the entirety of West Africa? What will it mean for drivers, mechanics, and city life? And how can we make sure the transition is inclusive, not disruptive? So from tariffs and charging stations to used car imports and even policy certainty, this conversation has major implications for businesses as well as environment and the way we live. Without further ado, Adedayo is here in the studio. Good morning to you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for coming on. We are in this conversation that I dread. I don't think I dread. It's just it makes me wonder about how we're going to phase out in terms of our current status of petrol vehicle usage in Nigeria and West Africa when we look at the number and also the trends. Is Africa and Nigeria ready?
I mean, it's more of a question. It's now a question of when, not if anymore, right? We've seen changes already in East Africa, and I'm keeping it within the African continent now.
Yes.
In the West, they're already significantly advanced, in terms of the e-mobility adoption and all of that.
Right.
But in the West here, West Africa, a huge part of our transportation is still around the 2- and 3-wheeler vehicles, right? They represent roughly around 70% of the vehicles that we have on the road today.
That's right.
Nigeria is home to, about 8 million of those vehicles, the largest on the continent. West Africa as a whole is home to about 35 million of those 2- and 3-wheeler vehicles. Those vehicles span across Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Burkina Faso. So a huge part of our transportation still sort of lies around the 2- and 3-wheeler vehicles. But we noticed something in 2023 when subsidy was taken off, right? Prices of fuel went up by 400%, and margins for business owners, micro entrepreneurs, people in the transportation sector got cut by nearly 50%. So those conversations already started from that point. The minute the subsidy went off, people started looking for alternatives. So we've seen alternatives in terms of CNG, but now the broader conversation and the long-term and more strategic plan, which I think is around the EV, has started. So you've seen government of different countries, even ECOWAS, conversations have now started to say, at what point do we now begin to, start this shift? We saw what happened, or we've seen what has happened in East Africa, where, some countries have even gone on to outrightly ban some of these vehicles, put very high import duty taxes on them. So I think the conversation has already started in West Africa. Nigeria is not even left out, and it's only a matter of time before we see mass adoption of these vehicles on our roads.
Honestly, I'm tempted to think that in Africa, perhaps we're just, because the West is doing it, we're following suit, as opposed to looking at what the real problem is. For example, electric cars now you're talking about, we're still dealing with electricity generally for even normal human beings to consume.
We don't have good roads.
Exactly. Not to not talk of having charging ports that will be effective. So it's good for us. It sounds good, no doubt, but looking at our own peculiar problem.
Yeah. So I think what is actually driving this conversation in Nigeria especially has been the removal of the subsidy, right? The operating expenses for a lot of users, and I'm keeping this conversation to, the transport sector that houses more of these vehicles, is that, cost of running their business has just significantly spiked. They can't continue to run the business the way they used to do before subsidy. So the conversation around how do we then begin a transition has started. It's a nascent space, we agree, and it's going to take a lot of effort from individuals, government and agencies, organizations to actually build out this space. But that's the job it is we're doing at Zumi, building the infrastructure.
Did I say Zoom earlier? Zoom. I did Zoom.
So that's what we're doing at Zumi, right? Building out the infrastructure to drive the adoption of these electric vehicles across the country. So I think that we're not just following the West the way you think about it. I think it's more of a necessity for us now. And that's just because eventually, even the West that are selling us a lot of these petrol cars don't have, they'll stop manufacturing them. So where do we go from there? So at some point, the conversation has to shift to electric vehicle, and it's a long and strategic conversation that needs to be had across not just Nigeria, even the whole of Africa.
Well, we have to come back home, Sha, because when we think about our grid capacity, to begin with, is collapsing every 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we're doing the transition, what are we looking at in terms of infrastructure for grid capacity for electric cars?
Yeah, so you're very correct. Our grid is very unstable. Today, what we have done, at Zumi is look at hybrid solution and decentralized energy solutions to sort of tackle that problem. And I think that's where the long-term plan, even for a country like Nigeria, is going to sit. How we're able to combine hybrid solutions, pending the time we're able to generate, transmit, and make sufficient grid power available across networks. We'll continue to look at some of the solutions I mentioned. It's also important to say that we are in the battery charging and swapping business. We've facilitated over 50,000 battery swaps since inception. And one of the things that we've learned on that journey is our cheapest form of power today is still renewable energy, which is solar. And we're seeing that also gain huge traction, in Nigeria and across Africa. So solutions like this are what we're now embedding into the whole ecosystem in itself to catalyze adoption.
Taxi drivers, my friends. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The informal sector.
I'm telling you.
The mechanics.
Exactly. How would you understand?
Because they... Don't make me get passionate. There's an entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
When we talk about taxi drivers, talk about Kurupe, there's also those mechanics that are at the Ladikbo zone, Oyingbo as well. They have all their hotspots. If we're phasing out, how do we carry them along? I don't know if you want to add to that.
Exactly. Also, I was going to ask you, which is more expensive? Because at the end of the day, the price is also important. If you're telling us to let go of our fuel vehicles and electric cars are more expensive, it's now even more unrealistic because we're battling with the issue of power in Nigeria. Right. We're battling with the price of the vehicle as well. So how realistic is that? Are the electric vehicles, are they more expensive than the fuel and the cars?
I mean, upfront cost, yes, right? They're more expensive. But when you look at it in terms of total cost of ownership, it becomes cheaper because you're spending less actually running those vehicles. And I'll give you context, right? It's almost 4 times cheaper, 3.5 to 4 times cheaper to actually run an electric vehicle, right? Again, as compared to running a petrol engine. So that cost-saving benefit that it affords the drivers, the micro entrepreneurs, the people in the transport sector is huge, right? And you need to also consider that because there is this cost-saving benefit on their day-to-day, it improves their margin, it improves their livelihood, it improves how much it is they're taking home. But what we've also seen, and what it is we are also trying to do to sort of drive this adoption, right, is introduce some level of financing, because financing is then eventually what catalyzes, the adoption of these vehicles. So we're asking ourselves, if we're able to have the drivers drive to own or the riders ride to own these vehicles on a daily basis, does it ease the burden of the upfront cost and allow them to, continue to use those vehicles until they becomes theirs at the end of the day? So those are some of the solutions that have been put up front. And you look at the EV market globally, those are what it is we've seen in other markets too. So Nigeria is not any different. We just want the policies to come in. We want there to be some level of standardization. Things around financing would help hugely in making these vehicles very affordable for off-takers and also significantly improve their margins, because we need to always remember that at the end of the day, the people using these vehicles for every form of activity, they want to see the improvement in their lives. Right. It's not just clean air, there's also cost-saving benefits. But
Adedayo, we've seen situations where it's right to own and those contracts become very stringent and oftentimes tagged as modern-day slavery, for lack of a better word. And so that's even for petrol combustible energy vehicles. But for EVs, it's completely different, because not only are you trying to make it attractive for them, there's also an issue of accessibility in terms of parts and charging and all of that put together. So what is a marketability like for a terrain like Nigeria? And penetration is another interesting word. I mean, when we're looking at the north or northeast or west, and also parts where it's hard to reach and they have electricity issues. I think that Nigeria itself, the terrain is completely different. So let's talk about challenges and gaps that needs to be closed for us.
Okay, so I think the most important gap that needs to be addressed first today is the involvement of the government, right? Policies around standardization, fiscal policies that just help, sort of put some framework around what it is that is going on in this space. Then once that is out of the way, we can then now begin to talk about, it's a nascent space that we need to build infrastructure for. So how then do we then begin to roll out the infrastructure? That's the business it is that we do today, right? Till date, we've rolled out 10 battery and charging stations across the city of Lagos, and we're raising capital now to be able to continuously deploy those solutions, not just in urban cities but rural areas as well. So there is the challenge of that, and I think lastly, right, would be access to capital. Commercial capital is still pretty much very expensive, and this is where also we need the government to also still step in. Capital that allows us to, it's infrastructure, so it's a lot of debt, right? Patient capital that allows us to build out these stations, and we're not stifled by wanting to pay back that capital almost immediately. Conventional finances, things around grants and things like that. So the government still needs to pump that in as well, to sort of build out what I consider would be the real framework. But to also address one of the things you said earlier on around mitigate, how do we ensure that drivers are not slaved up by some of these finances? So I mean, it's true that the default rate for financing in Nigeria is pretty high, but what we've also seen is that, over the years, the numbers have significantly improved. Right. We're seeing people, because we are able to come up with several mitigating strategies to ensure that people pay off this debt, those numbers have tremendously improved in the last 3 years. Now, for the off-taker, you are talking about him not being able to pay, but the provider, the OEM, the manufacturer, or the financer is also taking a risk, by deploying those vehicles. So one of the strategies it is that we have also seen is, if they're doing it right to own, right, there's an equity investment also required from some of these drivers, so that they also have a skin in the game, right, to be able to make sure that they pay. And for the financer or the producers of these vehicles, what we've also done is, because they have to come and charge at the station, or because they have to come and do a battery swap at the charging station, we're able to ensure that they make those payments before that particular activity is done. So it's all learning in around the space to ensure that at the end of the day, we can drive the adoption and catalyze the growth of EVs.
How can you carry the informal sector along? We talked about that. I asked you earlier, forgive me, Chinwe, the mechanics, those, the drivers as well, and also commuters. How do we include them in this EV evangelism?
Also, all right. So part of our job, right, as an organization in Zumi, first off, is to provide infrastructure for electric vehicles to be able to charge and swap their batteries, is after-sales service and maintenance. So we've committed a lot of money into training drivers, engineers, technicians, and mechanics. Now, there's also an association called EMPMAN, and that's the e-mobility association in Nigeria. Just recently, I think about a month ago or a month and a half ago, they had trainings for roughly around, I think, 150 plus technicians that want to learn how to repair these vehicles. So the momentum is building, right? The right things are being done. 3 years ago, when it is, 3.5 years ago when we started this journey, there were less than 100 vehicles on the road that were electric, right? Today, we have north of 4,000 vehicles in Nigeria that are electric. And the signs are there that the improvement will continue, especially to your point on the informal sector. Capital is being deployed to continuously train people. Resources are being deployed to ensure that drivers enjoy as much uptime and stuff like that. So I think we've caught it in Nigeria. It's only a matter of how fast we can then now begin to grow with this.
How about spare parts? Because the spare parts are something that's quite important when it comes to maintenance of vehicles.
Yes.
Is there some sort of awareness now to the spare part dealers to start to shift a bit from what they have now?
Your brothers.
So there's that awareness for
your brothers.
Yes. So let me tell you. So when we started this in 2023, we engaged a few OEMs. We brought them into the country. What we did with them specifically was continue to give continuous feedback as to how the product could improve to almost arrive at a product market fit in terms of the vehicles. Now, these OEMs have done that, and some of them are now even in country as we speak. So they have brought in the spare parts. They have brought in more than sufficient parts to be able to carry out repairs. So I don't really think that's a problem today, again, in terms of spare part. Moreover, I think outside the battery, the controller, and the converter, most vehicles already have parts that are similar to petrol vehicles.
I see. Let's talk about public-private partnership.
Awesome.
And just the government and industry as well, for companies like yourself and also others who are breaking in the mold and trying to find a niche for themselves. I think that the government has also done a bit, I think, earlier this year with the tax reforms when it comes to, try to make it more attractive for cleaner companies and green energy companies to come in, in terms of the nation staring towards, climate change, climate resilient companies. And so I want to ask if that's enough, and what can we do to strengthen PPP regarding EVs and cleaner companies?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go back to some of the things that I said earlier. First of all, we need to see more action from the government.
It's one thing to write papers, another thing to implement them.
Exactly. We need to see a lot more action. We need to see a lot more action and intent from the government. I wouldn't want to start mentioning names of countries here, but in East Africa, what it is we have seen is the mass adoption it is that they've gained in terms of vehicles, in terms of policies, in terms of framework, were not just backed by the government, they were executed by the government. The government ensured that those things were followed through. So for any private-public partnership to work, I think first of all the government needs to come in and give the private sector the confidence that this is something that they're looking to play long-term. And I think, like I said, it's only a matter of time before we arrive at that junction. So the policy is important, and again, we can't build out this space without capital, right? We need some sort of concessional finance from both the government and the private sector, pumped into the economy. It could be through, some climate funding strategy or I don't know how it is, we're going to frame that, but that finance needs to also come in to ensure that we're able to build out the infrastructure, because without the infrastructure, we can't do anything. Right, so that's where I see the private and public partnership coming in. It's on the policy side and on the finance side.
Policy and finance.
I've heard you say a lot about what the government has to do, but then again, I'm just wondering if this particular government is ready. I mean, we've seen how we've struggled with energy for quite some time. Even talking about our refineries, people are talking about they should sell it at the end of the day. So I'm just wondering if truly they're ready to actually do what they need to do to ensure that this transition is seamless.
Yeah, so I think I'm not going to point out the government again. I'm going to commend them here.
So glad you threw your mama.
I'm not going to comment. I'm not going to point finger. I'm going to commend. So we have honestly started seeing some traction from the government, especially around some incentives. So their duty waivers to the EVs already, and it's not just by mouth. Okay. I've seen people bring in EVs and they have gotten some heavy level of subsidy and waivers, there. And the NADDC, which is the council responsible for the policy, have made tremendous strides, in putting that policy together. I think at the earliest we're expecting, that policy out, next year, and that's what that's what is being whispered around, the agency. And when that comes in, we're then able to say we can then now build on that. So the government is important. I think to the pace that this needs to grow, it could be better, but it's not the worst, and it's only a matter of time before we see the full effect of some of the policies it is they're going to be bringing in. And you have to always remember as well. The Western world is not producing petrol cars anymore. A lot of them have cut-off dates. So
what about drill, baby, drill? There's been the... Why are you people laughing? No, but seriously though. Yeah. Trump's inaugural speech, right? The commands were simple: drill, baby, drill, right? And we've seen, with the bombings of the Venezuelan sheeps, as much as they're saying is completely different, we know that at the heart of everything is oil, right? And so, as we're saying that we're moving towards cleaner energy, one of the world's largest powers and largest economies are still trying to go back, to that time. Yeah. So it's sort of I don't know the term, a dichotomy of it all.
Yeah, I think eventually it's a super long-term agenda. I don't think
super long-term.
Yes, because eventually it's going to come and stay. It's the future of even what the fuel is, right? Most fuel companies are going to move into energy. It's pretty straightforward. But, it's going to take some time, right? It's the world we're talking about here. But, it's important that those conversations already start now.
Yeah, am I being too ambitious if I say should be looking at, Nigerians also making their own electric cars?
No. Yeah, manufacturing. Thank you.
No, that makes it even easier in terms of
localization of even the ecosystem in itself, right? It's important that at least 60 to 70% of the part of those vehicles, we're able to locally manufacture them here. Let me tell you what that does for us. First, it brings the cost of these vehicles down by a tremendous percentage. Secondly, it creates jobs, it creates opportunities, improves livelihood for the locals here. So you're not being too ambitious by saying that, we need to look at localizing, not just even manufacturing, but even assembling, right? You're not being too ambitious. And I think, again, there are already conversations ongoing as to how some of those things begin to come into the country. I say these things because, I've been around the block in the EV space for a while, so I know what is actually going on.
All right.
Yeah.
Chiweta drives an SUV. To fuel his car is 120,000 naira. Oh, sorry.
Big boy.
Big boy.
That's fake news, please. Fake news.
And so to get an EV, if he's trying to be, very earth conscious and, be more attractive to the ladies. as if his SUV is not doing enough. He most likely would have to, want to change to the clean, green car, right? So, and if, so that would be expensive, right? And that would be expensive. So let's look at, the price in terms of in the market and what the options are. I mean, for myself, that I'm using Legady's Benz. If I want to,
another fake news again. Another fake news, please.
I want to, so I don't know, mopeds. So what are we looking at in terms of? So we're talking about it. Because we have to look at economic indices, cost of living crisis. This one is a big man. Me, I'm a small baby.
So I'll tell you something. Again, the best news I have for both of you today is you spent how much? $120.
I know, that's right.
She said, I don't know. I don't know what information from, but no.
Yeah, you're probably spending, around 50,000 naira for the same distance it is you travel with that 120,000 naira fuel that you're buying. Okay. Now, this is not an assumption. This is a fact backed by multiple test practices, right? That's that. Now, to you that wants to purchase vehicles, like I said, in Nigeria, we're not really used to buying new cars, new things. So there's that headache of a lot of the EVs that are being produced today are actually new. So the best way to get past that hurdle is through some form of financing. And I can guarantee you today, there are multiple financing partners out there.
The ones that will charge you even your children's kidney, your unborn child kidney.
So what it is that, that affords people is, of course, the financing companies have to make a bit of margin.
Yeah.
Of course, it will be slightly priced higher than, if you're going to outrightly take out of pocket to purchase those vehicles. But what it then allows you to do is to integrate that financing into your monthly, your monthly expense, right? And what you are actually then taking advantage of is the amount of money you would have actually been using to fuel that car and maintain it.
Right.
Yeah. So to you that wants to purchase one, he says you're a big woman. You can actually take out a pocket. You can just
relax, calm down, calm down. What about lower middle class? What about lower class in terms of, motorcycles?
Okay, so for the motorcycles, today we have companies that are pricing the electric motorcycles at the same price of the fuel motorcycles.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, well, yes. I found my brand. I found my spec now.
Some tricycles also.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so why that has been possible anyway is because to an extent, there are arrangements. Okay, so I'll use our own example as a proper case study here. So we have arrangements with OEMs that allows us to take some sort of ownership of that battery and split the cost over a period of time based on our revenue between ourselves and the manufacturers of those vehicles. So the off-taker actually, or the person that trying to purchase that vehicle, is only buying the chassis. You're only buying the chassis in itself. And I would also, enlighten people a little bit. The most expensive part of an electric vehicle is the battery. It's the single most expensive part. So if you take off that battery cost from people, it allows them, almost price the vehicle with the petrol counterparts.
Where are we in terms of the number of charging stations that we have in Nigeria? Because I'm sorry, I mean,
because you want to buy from me, you need to know where I need to charge my motorcycle. Thank you.
No disrespect, but then it's a case of those who who move interstate, right? So Lagos, yes, we can have a few numbers.
See, a big man.
When you go to places like Osun or somewhere else, I don't know. Let me not call any state. I'm dragging it, but we know that there's some level of disparity when it comes to level of development.
And you will not be able to drive long distance.
So exactly. So people who
or even within Lagos, because I mean, so for some persons that live on Lekki, example AIG, AEG, EG, and EG as well. Whenever they want to move from Lekki all the way down to Oroshoki, all of us that are in the background here, there's long distance with them.
Okay, so two things. First of all, in terms of charging stations that you have in Lagos.
Okay.
So we currently have 10. We have 3 on the island, 7 on the mainland.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that distributed. Yes, no, I mean on the grand scheme of things.
Small.
Because the mainland is bigger than island.
No. On the grand scheme of things, it's small. But our plan in the next 5 years is to deploy roughly around 500 charging stations across the country. As I speak to you,
I have money.
That's why we're asking the government, and that's why we're pleading on the public-private partnership to come on board.
I must say thank you for taking our time to join us.
Awesome.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. Adedayo Odunlami, he's the CEO and co-founder of Zumi, talking to us about electric vehicles and the future of electric. One time in our lives, there were ads saying that cars could run on water. This guy wasn't born then. It's goodbye from us. Make sure to tune in on Monday, bright and early, to join Olive, Benga, and Joe on Breakfast Central. This is the Breakfast Extra. I'm Judith.
And my name is Chiwata.
And of course, it's Adedayo. Good morning. Bye for now.